Bravo bosses. This is the Bravo Investigator podcast. I am your host, Dana, and today we are talking about the Real Housewives of Salt Lake City and Vanderpump Rules. So happy Thursday, everyone. I'm sorry I didn't get you an episode yesterday, as I have now been preaching and promising this 5 day a week show. Here's what happened. Here's what happened. I slept all day. I slept the entire fucking day. I don't know. I have been extremely exhausted despite the fact that I'm unemployed. I have been extremely, extremely busy because I've been applying for as many jobs as I can a day. I am also trying to create content for my UGC portfolio because I'm trying to do that, but I'm also trying to create content for a potential internship that I'm looking into for a social media job. Plus, what else am I doing? Yesterday, no, was it on Tuesday? I was at my car dealership for 6 hours trying to get my car fixed. So there was all of that. Plus recording the podcast, right? So I've been doing so many things and I've just been honestly physically exhausted. I feel like even though I've been unemployed almost 2 weeks now, there hasn't been a day where I've actually just sat down and rested because I feel like I shouldn't rest. I feel like I need to be productive. I feel like I need to be doing a million things to, get my new life up and running. So I've just been crazy busy. And then yesterday I literally woke up, took my dog for a walk, came back in. I don't know. The weather was insane. The weather's been insane here in Toronto for the past few days, to be honest with you guys. It's wet, it's gross, it's rainy, it's disgusting. We went out for a minute, we came back in, and then I passed out for the day. I'm not kidding, the day. And then I kind of woke up for a little. I applied for 2 jobs, sort of half consciously. I ate some food. I really haven't been eating much. I've been eating once a day to try to save money. But yesterday I was just hungry. And then I ended up staying up really late working on my portfolio for this social media job. And I think it looks really good. So I got kind of excited about it. And, I don't know if you guys are like this, but when you're really into something, you kind of just don't want to put it down. So I was up till 12:30 doing that. So here's what I think I'm going to do, because I think a 5 day a week show might be a bit much considering I'm also doing the Patreon. So technically it's 6 days a week. So here's what I think we're going to do. Okay. New schedule. Okay. Monday, reality roundup on video. Tuesday, TLC Tuesday, 90 Day Fiance before the 90 days. Wednesday is Patreon, okay? Patreon babies will get their stuff on Wednesdays. Then Thursdays will be, like today, Real Housewives of Salt Lake City and Vanderpump Rules. And Fridays will be Southern Charm and Real Housewives of Beverly Hills. And that way I have a full weekend to recoup and catch up with all the other millions of things I'm trying to do. And I think that'll work out a lot better. Plus, if there are other love shows coming up soon, like Love is Blind or Perfect Match or any of that stuff, I want to make sure I have other free days to do that as well. So I hope that works with you guys. 4 days a week on the main feed, Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, and then Patreon will be on Wednesdays. This week, Patreon babies, you'll get your Patreon episode on Saturday, just because I haven't given you one this week. And there wasn't one on Wednesday, obviously. So I'll get you that on Saturday, and then from now on, it'll be on Wednesdays. So I hope that's an okay schedule. Guys, I'm sorry that I keep changing things, and I'm also sorry that I keep saying sorry, because I know that's probably really annoying as well. I'm in my out of sorts era. I'm trying to figure my shit out, trying to figure my life out. And you guys are coming along with me for the ride, unfortunately. So, get ready with me to ruin my life. So here we are today to talk about Real Housewives of Salt Lake City and Vanderpump Rules. Both of these episodes weren't super meaty because with Salt Lake City, we were going on a cast trip. So a lot of that involves just the physical travel there. And Vanderpump Rules, we're still getting to know some of the characters. Even when they did the opening sequence, which was jarring, by the way, to see the slow spin around that they do with the trays and the drinks and stuff. And it's a bunch of strangers. Who are these people? But one of them was like someone we haven't met yet. I think someone named Angelique, who we're going to meet next week, or we met recently, but briefly. So these episodes aren't super meaty, so we'll just sort of talk about them as we do. But I'm trying to remember if there's anything else I wanted to let you guys know before we get into it. Well, I guess I'll just let you know that I'm just going to try to have a lot more guests on as well. Morgan from Morgan's Pop Talks will be on next week. I think on Thursday. So like today's episode, be doing this with Morgan next week. Next Tuesday, I have Amy Archer from Little Miss Recap covering 90 Day Fiance with me on Tuesday for TLC Tuesday. So I think it's going to be a really fun time here. And guys, don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel. Okay. I've linked it in the show notes. It's really important because it's my understanding, and I have to look into it again, but it's my understanding that if I get to 5,000 subscribers, I can start monetizing. So you don't even have to watch this on YouTube, okay? Just subscribe, okay? I just need to get the subscribers so that I could just like start monetizing my shit, you guys, okay? Like that is what I'm trying to do here. I'm trying to make some money out of this here, okay? Like this is still, for the most part, a free show on the main feed, right? Obviously, we have the Patreon for $5 a month, patreon.com/The Bravo Investigator Podcast, where you can get 4 extra podcast episodes a month. But, I'm doing some episodes on YouTube, which are obviously the Monday Reality Roundup, any interview that I have, and probably any guest. Plus, I'm just uploading all the videos there anyway. So even an episode like today, which is audio only, I'm still uploading the quote unquote video. So if you want to watch that on YouTube, you can as well. But yes, please subscribe over there. Please subscribe to the Patreon too, if you are able to as well. Okay, let's get into it. And I apologize if my dog starts freaking out. She has been freaking out because there are men in the hallway, which nobody wants, obviously, because I don't know, I guess there was a leak or something. And there's all these machines out there where they're like drying the carpet, and it's just freaking her out. It's making her unhappy. Any sort of condo noise just like makes her lose her fucking mind. And girl, I don't blame you, but it causes a lot of barkity. So if she does that, my apologies. I just really don't want to crate her because I had to crate her last night. Okay. Let's get into the Real Housewives of Salt Lake City. And the ladies are getting ready for their trip to Greece. Oppa! And I swear to God, they kept saying like baklava too, like baklava, which is funny. And Lisa is Greeked out being friends with Angie because like basically being friends with Angie is already like being on a trip to Greece, which I completely understand. And I'm sure that Angie's daughter would concur because like I have just never met anyone who is so obsessed with their culture like this. Well, that's not true. I dated a guy who was Russian and he was obsessed with being Russian. Like being Russian was the best. It was the coolest. Everyone wants to be Russian. And he would try to find a way to bring it up in every sentence. And I'm like, yeah, cool, whatever. It was not something I'd ever really thought about, to be honest. But like, he was my boyfriend. So I wanted to like pump him up, right? Like make him feel good. I'm like, yeah, Russians are the fucking hottest. But I don't know. I don't think I'd ever like particularly dated one before or had thought about it before, but it's good to be supportive of your own culture. And I think especially because she's doesn't have the citizenship and she didn't grow up there, I think she feels like she's missing a piece of it. Like I sort of felt the opposite growing up. I felt like I was sort of forced into Judaism. I know like obviously nationality and religion are different, but Judaism just sort of always falls in its own category for some reason. But I remember feeling like growing up, I had to go to Hebrew school and I had to do all these things and I didn't want to. And I sort of felt, sorry for the throat clearing, guys. I sort of felt like forced into those things by my family. And I remember meeting people growing up who said like that they had wished they had been forced into it so that they had the opportunity to learn more about the religion and the culture when they were younger. And I'm like, oh, I guess I see what you're saying, right? But I don't know. It's hard because like, I know a lot of people now who don't even raise their kids in religion whatsoever. They're literally just like, hi, you're born. These are all the religions and pick one. Pick whichever one like you believe, which I feel like is sort of like the best bet. But it's obviously, like I said, different with a nationality and different with something. It's almost like a grass is always greener on the other side for Lisa because like she felt like she didn't get to experience it. So now she just wants to experience it to like the nth degree. So we get there. Okay. Like let's just skip it all. And we get to Greece and we have this sit down for dinner. And on the way, Lisa and Angie apparently got into it over like a Cartier watch where Lisa thought that Angie was copying her. I don't know. So I guess Angie had one. Lisa thought like, oh, you must only want this because you want to be like me. This whole like jealousy, copying things, absolutely ridiculous. I really don't think that any of these women think about each other enough to go and do this, except that Heather then decides to go and buy one at the duty free for $6,000 and grabs one for Whitney too. Now, I love that they are rich enough to just do this just to spite Lisa, but like, I mean, I will spend an inordinate amount of money to be right as well. Okay. Like, even if I don't have the money, if I'm trying to prove a point, I will probably spend a lot of money as well. But like, Heather does this just because she's trying to irritate Lisa, which is like a move, right? Like, what is she doing? I really feel like she's trying to force storylines for herself here, right? She has so much potential to tell us what's going on with her. All she tells us about is her fucking like, she got an air fryer. She's decorating her kids' beds. She's getting rid of her marital mattress, right? But like, Heather, you're like trying to create things here. Like, there's a fight between Lisa and Angie. It has nothing to do with you. And now you're just trying to like put Lisa in her place by like going and spending 6 or 12 if you bought Whitney's for her, $1,000 on a watch just to spite her. Like, it's just so ridiculous. I don't like it. I've always defended Heather and I've always liked Heather, but there's just like a level of petty that she is this season while trying to create this ambiance of like like the mother hen. Like, you know how we have one on every show, right? Like on Southern Charm right now, it's Madison. It's sort of like our mother, like our Mother Teresa mother hen, the one we sort of go to, or like the voice of reason. But she's not doing it right. Like initially I thought she was being a good voice of reason, but now she's just being like a little like petty. Now, Mary actually calls it a grandma watch. She's like Cartier. She also calls it like Cartier, which is funny because isn't Mary the one who is like so distinguished in like Dom Perignon from 2003? Like she knows like everything about everything that's in like the high class category, but she doesn't know about Cartier or how to pronounce Cartier. But they are staying at the most gorgeous villa. I mean, just watching this episode was just really beautiful to watch because Greece is gorgeous. I've never been, but honestly, just watching the scenes and the sights and just watching them walk through the streets, it's a very beautiful place to visualize just because it is so optically gorgeous. So in the morning, Lisa is having her makeup done with like a backdrop and lights and stuff. And she tells the camera that she would never go anywhere without glam because why look ugly? And I mean, yeah, she's got glam in Saint Tropez, she's got glam in Greece, she's got glam everywhere. But also, like, why is the opposite of glam ugly? Because obviously she's not ugly without makeup. She's gorgeous. I think a lot of people online, or sorry, was it online or was it in the show? I think it was even in the show where the girls were like, oh, the level of insecurity she has, wanting to do the glam and stuff. And I don't really know what it's about, but like, obviously you're on camera. You want to look your best. That makes sense. But the way she freaked out a few seasons back, where she said she couldn't have glam or she couldn't have glam for like a certain scene, I think is like a whole other level. And I think that does show a level of insecurity with what you look like without makeup, right? Because like makeup only goes so far. I mean, like, I don't mean to say like, I'm sure without makeup, she looks like generally the same person, right? Like even if she wears a lot of makeup, she's not like this like heavily like filtered Botox looking kind of person. So, I feel like there is a level where like it seems like she kind of gives up on other things in favor of glam. Like she doesn't get to hang out with the women the rest of the day because she's so busy getting glam and it's taking so long. So Angie asks the ladies, or no, wait. So we are still having dinner here now. And Heather is having an issue with Meredith for calling her a liar, for saying that if she stays friends with Brittany, they're done. So we're going to get to this in a minute. And Angie asks the ladies what they think of the men in Greece, and then has the audacity to ask Bronwyn if she's going to be trying to get numbers here too, because she mentioned being open. And she's like, no, not at all. She's like, Todd and I are not in an open marriage and he's happy and I'm happy and we are good. Like, no drama. It's all good. Now, last time we talked about Todd, he was looking at girls in their underwear on his phone and sleeping at a hotel. And she's also not wearing her ring right now, but she's like, oh, I wear different jewelry all the time. So Whitney tells the camera that she doesn't know what Bronwyn wants us to think because she puts it all out there. She puts all this info about their marriage, but now she's acting like there's no issues. And Mary calls her out for it. She's like, you put out all this stuff about your marriage, and now you're just backtracking, right? Like the whole group says, like, hey, you told us, like you asked him to leave. And she's like, I don't need to explain anything that happens in my house. Now, this is really interesting because she really, really did put it all out there, right? In that scene, I mean, in a couple scenes, that scene that she had with Whitney, that sit down where she's like, if Todd were open to an open marriage and if that's something that he wanted, I'd be open to trying it. I understand what it means to date like an older person. And then we had that sit down between her and Todd where she flat out asks him, like, do you want to have an open marriage? And he's like, no, I'm happy with the way things are. Now, that is what she's saying here, right? But she's not explaining to the women like how we got here. If she was a little more open about it, if she was like, look, I know what I told you guys, but I've actually sat down with Todd. We've talked it out. He said that the things that I'm proposing are not things that he wants. He wants it to just be me. He wants it to just be us. He's very, very happy. And so, everything that I told you guys, I feel like is resolved. Okay, that would be a different thing. But the way she's backtracking it as if she's never said it, girl, you can't do that just because you really put it all out there. You can't put the toothpaste back in the tube. You really told everyone everything. So it's very weird now to it's sort of like what Kristen Doty did way back with Carter, or what Katie and Stassi said that she would do, where she would tell them like all these bad things about him. And then like when they would try to bring it up on camera, she would backtrack and act like their relationship was perfect. So it sort of reminds me of that. And I feel like it's interesting because she's what, like, is this only her second season or is it her third? I'm not even sure right now. Whatever it is, I feel like she's still trying to gain her bearings here because like this was like a this was a rookie move. This was like a weird rookie move. So Meredith actually says to her, I've been in your shoes, and in her experience, this is probably not the end of it with this group. So what she's saying is they're going to keep bringing this up, right? And she's not wrong. I mean, she's not. So Heather goes to Mary's room to talk to her about Meredith, and she doesn't want to have a one-on-one with her because she feels like Meredith will just twist things. So Mary advises her to just like be really direct with Meredith. So Heather says that, the way that it is with Meredith, she always takes things as a personal attack, which is very, very true. So she's just really not sure how to address things with her. Now, again, this whole thing with Meredith and Heather is purely about, this is ridiculous, Meredith allegedly lying about saying that she would be done with Heather if she continued to be friends with Brittany. Who cares? Who cares? This isn't even anything. Again, I feel like Heather is just creating shit. So Lisa was walking all over Santorini by herself because she was delayed by her glam. So she didn't even get to explore with the ladies, but yet shows up in sunglasses after all of that time. So Meredith gives everyone necklaces as a peace offering, but Heather wants to talk about it. But Heather wants to talk about like her issues with Meredith. But Meredith says, I don't want to do it in front of the group. She's like, I messaged you, I texted you, I asked you to do this separately. I don't want to do it in front of the group, and you refused. Well, that's interesting because, we did have Heather saying earlier, like, yeah, I don't want to have this one-on-one, but she doesn't specify that Meredith was like really trying to reach out to her because of it. It is kind of interesting, especially because it is just between the two of you. And like, regardless, it is a show. So you can do it in front of everyone or you can do it between the two of you. But I feel like maybe she felt like there was strength in numbers if she did it in front of everyone. But again, I still feel like this whole issue is absolutely ridiculous. So Heather goes at this by saying, you assassinated my character and our friendship and questioned my loyalty. Meredith's like, no, I didn't. Classic Meredith. And Heather says that she was hurt for Meredith calling her a liar, for calling her a liar. And, she just feels like it's exhausting that she has to like reach the standard that Meredith doesn't even have for herself. Then Lisa tells the camera that it's annoying that Heather plays the judge and jury of everyone. And I do have to agree with baby girl Lisa here. Sorry to throw in a 90 Day Fiancé reference. But like, I don't know why Heather is sort of becoming like the beacon of everything here. Like at the beginning, like I said, she was a little bit playing the voice of reason. But just because Heather is hurt by something doesn't mean that she gets to dictate the situation. Heather says that Meredith is selective about what she has outrage for, like the TikTok, when there's been much bigger bombs dropped in her lap. Meredith's like, I don't agree with you. But again, like that's her prerogative, Heather. Like it's her prerogative what she decides is a big deal to her, right? Who's to say what is a bigger bomb that's been dropped in her lap? So Whitney starts to cry because everyone is fighting because of Meredith's treatment of Brittany on the plane. And she says, "You messed up, but we are all paying the price for it." This is absolutely ridiculous. Whitney is just like getting herself involved in something that has nothing to do with her now, crying for absolutely no reason. And then Meredith tells the camera that Whitney projects everything that she's going through and they just let it slide because she's always on a healing journey. And Whitney says that Meredith, you are the problem right now. You are the problem. And Meredith is like, everyone at this table has done something much worse. And Heather feels like worse because she feels like she's going to have to be the one to apologize and make it all go away. And probably, Heather, probably that's true, but that's also because you created this situation. You came into this and you said, I want to figure this out with you. And Meredith does make a good point earlier. She's like, I apologized for upsetting you guys. I apologized for the plane stuff. I apologized. Why can't we move on? And Heather has to like, exactly, try to create a whole new storyline and a whole new scene for no fucking reason, even though this is dead and done in the water, right? I actually really appreciated Meredith's candor as well as her like demeanor to just keep it like very even keel because even though that is her style anyways, to be like, I don't agree with you. And no, at the same time, she's also showing how like, here's the problem that happened. I apologized. We resolved it. Let's move on. So her acting that way is making her come off a lot more mature than Heather is coming off. Also, I feel like when people act very demure, very mindful, and very like even keel, especially when the other person is wanting a fight, it causes that other person to get even more like animated and aggravated because they're put off by how calm and even keel you're being, right? There's nothing that pisses someone off more when you're being absolutely calm when they're fighting with you. So, yeah, Heather, I feel like you are going to be the one to have to apologize and make it go away because, like Meredith said, this was dealt with and done. And now she's just trying to create this other situation and saying, like, you called me a liar, you did this and that. And she's like, I didn't do those things. And so, if you really want this addressed, you are going to have to make it go away because you're the one that brought it to the forefront in the first place and it's your issue, right? So, or you have to end your friendship with her because if you're saying that this is so detrimental that you cannot be friends with her anymore because she called you a liar and all these things, then you need to make a decision about this friendship. But to me, this is extremely trivial and you should move on, Heather. And also try to find another storyline, in my opinion. Okay, let's move on to Vanderpump Rules. So, as you guys will recall in our first episode, they have like this big team meeting, which we know that Lisa's want to do, to tell everyone that Marcus was drinking at work, which is a typical, Vanderpump Rules trope. Everyone drinks at work, right? Like Stassi was hiding those little bottles of tequila behind the mirror in the bathroom and stuff. And so she doesn't know what to do about Marcus because here's the thing. He was drinking at work. He was caught drinking at work. Natalie caught him, not Natalie like Natalie McGuire, like the star of our show, but Natalie of like Natalie and Guillermo who have been on the show since the jump, right? She doesn't know what to do about him because here's the thing. She can't fire him in the second episode. That would defeat the purpose. She's got to wait till at least season 2, like Kristen, right? So she doesn't know what to do and she decides to have a meeting with him later, but we'll get back to that. So then we move on to Audrey. Audrey we saw for like a very little bit in the first episode. She's blonde. She looks a lot like Sydney Sweeney if you keep looking at her and you keep getting to know her. And so she says that she's been serving since she was 16 because she's always wanted to be an actress. So this show, I mean, despite having different characters, definitely still follows the same like mentality of everyone who works here is working here because they want to be like a model or an actress. And so they have to work in restaurants in the interim until they get their big break. So I think that part is still really important. And it's the only part that I think is going to help make this show work because these people have to be an element of poor for this to work. Because if they are too famous and they're too rich, there's no motivation here to be authentic or to make this show the way it was, right? That's why Southern Hospitality is still in its good phase because they are still poor and they still genuinely work there. We get a little bit more about Kim and Marcus. They've been dating for 9 months, and we saw in the first episode that they are just like yo-yo. They break up all the time. His go-to, according to Kim, is that when they fight, they're broken up, but she sees it as more of like a Ross and Rachel breakup where you can't sleep with anyone else. Yeah, I think she's confused about the Ross and Rachel breakup because Ross did sleep with someone else, right? He was like, we were on a break. So there was a misconception between the two as to what the break meant. So she better check with him because it sounds like she considers a Ross and Rachel breakup to mean you can't sleep with someone else, but we don't know what Marcus considers it. Okay. Like, I think somebody needs to check with Marcus. Okay. So we get a scene with Marcus and his brother Aaron going for drinks. We get a little bit more about them. So I like that now that we're in the second episode, we're getting a little bit more about these people's backstories because that's the hard part, right? It's hard to invest in these characters when, one, I'm not attracted to them. And I can't believe I'm saying that, but I'm going to keep saying it. I'm not attracted to any of them. And two, I feel like I don't know them. And this is something that I've said about like, several reality shows like Love Island, for example, where there's just so many people that it's hard to invest in them or their love stories because I don't feel like I know them well enough. Or when they don't give us enough about the people, like Love is Blind this season, where like Anton and Allie got engaged in the first episode and I didn't feel like I got to know enough about them. If I can invest in these characters and their stories, then I'll care and I'll be here and I'll be really interested in it. And I feel like a big part of that involves these people's backstories. So Marcus and Aaron grew up in Indiana and they were super close. They were the only mixed family with their dad being Black and their mom being Italian. So they were the only ones sort of who looked the way that they did. He was also a smaller guy too, so that made him an easy target. So he was in a lot of fights when he was a kid. Marcus tells his brother that Lisa came at him at the meeting yesterday about drinking on the clock. He wasn't sure if she was being a rich asshole or if he was actually in trouble. Now, I am curious what she's going to say when she sees that play out. That's going to come up at the reunion because you know that Lisa freaks the fuck out if anyone says the smallest slight against her, right? There was something that, like, do you remember Danica from season 8? All she said was something like in the after show one time, like, oh, Lisa has the hots for Brett or something like that, like the other new guy, Brett. And she fucking fired her for that, right? Like, she did not get to come back to the show or the restaurant. Like, it was wild. She's like, I am happily married, Danica, blah, 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 blah. It was nothing. She just like set her sights on Danica and like fired, I swear. So Marcus has been at SUR for 3 years, and he says that Lisa is always busting his balls. And you know what? That's a Lisa trope, right? That's what Lisa does. He says that everyone drinks at work. He just got caught. Now, I probably agree with him, right? I mean, like I said, we've seen that on Vanderpump Rules frequently. But we also need to create storylines here, right? So is it something you should be doing at work? No, obviously not. So that means that Lisa, if she's going to come across it, she's got to take action on it. But it's interesting because this is like not like a different storyline that we've seen in Vanderpump Rules of yore, right? So it's interesting that we can sort of take it in a new vein, in a new way, with all new characters. I didn't even really think about it until now that we're almost like copying something that we've seen before. So Lisa texts Marcus to say that they're going to have a meeting about it on Tuesday. And he talks to his brother about the fight the night before at the Belmont, where he and Kim got into it over his friendship with Natalie. And Aaron says, are you sure you're doing enough to make her feel secure? And Marcus takes a long pause and he's like, yes, of course, I do a great job at that. It's like, okay, well, I think that's not necessarily true because I think it's pretty clear that she does not feel secure in this relationship. I think that that's a big part of it. I mean, that being said, we've only seen like very little bits of their relationship to date. And it's obviously not a very healthy relationship considering they are breaking up and getting back together all the time. That being said, they're allegedly still together in present day. So who knows? But this feels very Tom Sandoval and Kristen Doty season 3, where they're just like together for the convenience. I don't know. They just like don't really break up, but like eventually will. Or I mean, like obviously these two are not going to like make it long term. I think that's pretty clear. Then we get to this scene of Audrey and Venus. Audrey goes over to Venus's house. They can like read each other's minds. They're both from Texas, and they just sort of feel like home to each other. And I love like these home scenes where we can see people in like their small apartments. Like this was like the vibe, right? This is like the Vanderpump vibe where we see people like in their home learning about like how they got to where they are now and what they want from life. Now, this was a little interesting to me because I know nothing about manifestation, but apparently Venus is looking to become a manifestation coach, or he is a manifestation coach. I've never heard of such a thing. He said that he got into it because like he grew up in this small town and he was gay and he had to pretend to be someone he wasn't. And so the book The Secret like really changed his life. Now, I've heard of the book obviously, but I don't remember it. Is that like Eat, Pray, Love, or are these like two separate things? Because then he goes into this whole like diatribe about like what the secret is and what it means and everything. And I got lost in the sauce, and so did the audience. And that's why they just like sort of like sped through it because it's supposed to be like that boring and annoying, but like a manifestation coach. So is that like when you do like a Pinterest, like, and I don't mean to like, I'm not knocking this, I'm not making fun of it. I'm genuinely asking. Is that when you do like a Pinterest, like manifestation? Is that a thing? Is that what it's called? You do like these are all the things I want. Is that what it's called? A manifestation board or like I don't know, maybe I should do something like that. I should just put everything on a board that like I'm hoping to happen for me in 2026 and see if it happens. Is that how manifestation works? Well, maybe I need to hire Venus and as a manifestation coach because obviously I don't know how to manifest right. So Audrey says that she has been out of a relationship for 8 months and she's bisexual, but doesn't really like define herself in any particular way. She dated a girl for 4 years in high school, and then she dated like a bunch of guys after. And she thought that that was sort of interesting because most girls will like date guys and then be traumatized by them and then move on to girls, but she did the opposite. Now she just loves love, even when it hurts like a bitch. So you know that she's just going to be this girl that we're going to see like going in and out of relationships, but like who's that sort of reminds me of somebody who just like falls hard and fast. Sheena. Like who does that remind me of? Yeah, it's sort of like a Sheena, right? You know that Sheena falls hard and fast. She loves love, and I feel like she may be an element of Sheena. Nobody has once said. I mean, like I said, it's hard to not compare these people to the old cast, and I'm trying not to, but we're all doing it a little bit, right? And no one has once said like, hey, here's the Sheena of the group. And so maybe Audrey is, but in a much more confident way, I would say. So we have this scene where the guys all get together and have drinks at Sir and they talk about dating. And Venus is like, I have never kissed a girl. I've never touched a vagina. To me, it looks like Alien versus Predator. And I totally agree with him. I do. I am so grossed out by vaginas as well, even though I have one. And that's why I'm like so certain that I am like so straight because unfortunately I'm not into vaginas. And I wish I were. And that's why I say unfortunately, because I wish my options were more open because I hate men as like people. But unfortunately, I hate vaginas. I think they're so gross. And no offense to anyone that I'm speaking to, because obviously I have a vagina, right? So I also find my own vagina gross. Now I sound like Ariana Maddox, right? Where I'm just like, oh, I don't want anyone anywhere near my vagina. And I'm not saying that. I'm absolutely not saying that. I'm just saying like, I don't know. I've always just, maybe it's because I'm a germaphobe. Like I just find vaginas gross. I mean, penises are gross too, but I guess just because they're on the outside. Anyways, let's go back to the show because I feel like this is getting out of hand. So Chris said that the last girl that he dated made out with someone right in front of him. And he's like, he's 31. He's looking to have like a serious relationship and get married at some point. So he's looking for a certain kind of girl, right? And not the kind of girls he's been dating. He likes Audrey because he feels like she's not the typical LA girl because she's kind of spicy. That I don't know yet, right? We haven't really seen enough in her. And it's interesting to say a typical LA girl because like no one is like from LA, right? So I think it's so interesting when people say like the typical this or the typical that when no one is really typically from that place. I'm just sort of curious what that means. And then Demi accuses Natalie of being gone for an hour, which she denies, and Natalie calls her dramatic. So we do get to see a different side of Demi here where, why am I calling her Demi? I'm calling her Demi because of Secret Lives of Mormon Wives. So Demi, we're seeing a different side of Demi because she is a manager, right? So she does have to do her job. And that's why I feel like it's such a difficult dance when you're the manager, but you're also friends with the staff. And I feel like she's obviously in this contentious place with Natalie right now because of Natalie being suspended, because of the Paulo situation, where Demi was the one who had to kick her out. And now they're at work, they're at the restaurant, and Demi is having to do it again. She's like, Natalie, you've been gone for an hour. And she won't even let like Demi talk to her about it. She makes Guillermo talk to her about it. And Guillermo's like, okay, but Demi is the manager. Okay. Like you have to listen to her. So Natalie feels like her little group with Demi and Kim has just really gotten all fucked up recently, ever since she got suspended, because she's got Demi yelling at her over here and Kim won't make eye contact with her over there. So she just feels like things are just really screwed up with like her little family. And you have to remember that's how this show is, and that's what makes it really authentic, is the sense that these people are genuinely friends. Because Natalie's saying, I'm used to hanging out with these people in WeHo after work. I'm used to going to each other's apartments and getting drunk and hanging out. And like now I just feel really weird because something's going on with my friends. But we will come back to that. So then we get a little bit more about Chris. He is really close with his dad. He has a huge Italian family where you've got like six Tonys, four Anthonys, everyone in the family is a Tony or an Anthony. And, here's where he wants to talk a little bit more about what he's looking for, right? He says he doesn't want to waste his time if he's not feeling it or they're not feeling it, because he does want to get married one day. Now, given that he's been on two dating shows, I'm like, okay. But at the same time, he also feels like someone who is just trying to make his rounds in the reality TV space to get famous, right? And that's not like a secret. He literally says that, right? He says in the first episode, I've got this Hollywood look, so I want to do my thing. But it's hard to get a sense when he just did two dating shows if that's what he's actually looking for. Like, did you go on the dating shows to get on TV, or did you go on the dating shows because you want to get married, right? So I'm not really sure what he's looking for in terms of relationships right now. But, he keeps going into the fact that he's 31, and I think he is one of the older people in this show in comparison to some of the other cast. So then we have the sit down between Lisa and Marcus. And Lisa says that she hears that he's drinking a lot more than he used to, and he looks tired, thin, and unhappy. And I was like, whoa, right? Now, we actually heard Venus say to Audrey a bit earlier that Marcus drinks a lot. And I think he even says like that he has a drinking problem or something to that effect. Like, he literally alludes to it. So I think there is more to this here. I think there's more to it than Marcus drank at work when everyone drinks at work. I think there is a little bit more to it. So it's interesting that she brings this up, because he does end up kind of breaking down and saying that at the end of September, his mom passed away. And a couple of years ago, his dad passed away. So he feels very alone in the world. And he says that Kim just can't understand. Now, there's things in a relationship that he tells her he can't give her right now, but Lisa's like, she's on your side, right? Like Kim is on your side. So again, I feel like we need to learn a little bit more about their relationship, because like later on we hear Kim say that Marcus was never the same after his mom died. But like, I'm very curious how Kim was supportive or lack thereof during this period of time, right? Because I feel like you learn a lot about your relationship, or you learn a lot about someone when you go through something hard, right? Like think about Jax and Brittany, where they had broken up after season 6 and Jax's father died. And because of the way that Brittany just took over everything and took care of everything, he knew that she was his person. That being said, that didn't really work out in anybody's favor, but still, right? Like, if he didn't feel supported by her during that time, I feel like that might be something that he's harboring. We don't really know. We don't really know what happened during that time. And for him to feel alone in the world, I feel like that's such an interesting concept. And it's interesting because, like, even when you're an adult, there is always that sense of like being a child to your parents, right? And I feel like even when my parents got divorced, even though I wasn't close with them at the time, and I don't speak with my mom now, and I'm very close with my dad now, and so things have changed, I did feel alone for a second. I was like, I feel like I don't have parents. And it was just like this weird, like instant 1 second feeling that I had that came out of nowhere and went away. But I remember feeling like, oh, I don't have parents. It's this weird feeling of like discombobulation, disconnect, right? And, I think that's why it just really rocks people when their parents die or something tragically changes in their family dynamic, because that is something that's supposed to always remain true and constant and real in your life. And when that shakes, it kind of just shakes your whole world. So I get what he's saying there. Now, Lisa decides not to suspend him because she doesn't want to kick him when he's down. And he says that this job is all he has. Really? Like this job or like this show? Because he doesn't give me the sense that he gives a shit about this job. I mean, in the first episode, he literally says that, like he doesn't care, right? He doesn't work hard there. He drinks all the time there. He doesn't give me the sense that this is important to him. But he also doesn't give me the sense that the show is important to him either. But I guess we'll find out more later. We get a scene of Natalie and Venus going for a spray tan to get ready for Audrey's birthday. And it really reminds me of like the VPR scenes like this before, where they strip down and they're like spraying them down. So I love that. Getting a SUR employee naked on camera is not a hard thing to do. So she talks to Venus about Kim and her acting like she can't trust her. And like she kind of says, like, if she wanted something with Marcus, she'd go for it. And Natalie says that Kim is probably insecure because they fight all the time, but she can't put that on Natalie. And that is a good point, right? I mean, you can't put the insecurities you have in your relationship like on other people. I understand that Natalie is your friend and there's certain things that make you feel uncomfortable, but I don't know. It does seem like she's putting a lot on Natalie. And we do get a little bit more about this later. So this is kind of interesting because we move into Audrey's birthday party, which is like a big rooftop party. She looks hot and she looks like just like Sydney Sweeney. She looks amazing. So Natalie's upset because Kim doesn't want to acknowledge her. But like I said, they're on a small rooftop. So it's super weird. So they finally go aside to talk and they argue about her texting about heels to Marcus. So she says it's inappropriate, but Natalie's like, it sounds like you should be mad at him and not me. And we get a little bit more context here because initially we thought that Natalie was texting him like what Kim said in the first episode, like good morning text, like look at these heels that I got. And then Kim explains that the way that Marcus is making it seem is like, oh, well, Natalie's texting me about heels or Natalie's doing this. And she's like, okay, well, like that's a him thing. Also, the heels text was not even a picture of heels. It was literally like, I'm going to go buy some heels then, or I should go buy some heels, or I bought some heels. That's all it was. It was so innocuous. It was literally nothing. And now that I've seen it, I'm like, Kim, come on. There was nothing about that was inappropriate. Like, girl, you are pushing this way too far. And I do agree with Natalie, therefore, that, she is projecting all of her insecurities onto Natalie. So Venus tells the camera that Marcus will tell people what they want to hear, and he thinks he's always right. So he can't understand how an issue came from him, which is sort of the problem. I think it's the way he's portraying it to Kim, right? He's the one making it seem like it's inappropriate with Natalie. That's a big part of the problem. So they bring Marcus over and he says that Natalie is the one that calls them like brother and sister, even though they flashed the scenes of him saying it too. And Venus tells the camera that Marcus does not care about Kim's feelings. And then you actually hear him talking at the party to someone saying that he's falling out of love with her. Now, poor Kim overhears him saying this, so she leaves crying because it was such a painful thing to hear. But wild that they are still together now because, like, if he's like announcing to people at that point in time that he's falling out of love with her, I mean, that's got to be one of the most painful things you ever have to hear your significant other say about you. But like, how do you come back from that, right? Like, oh, fell back in love now, feeling a lot better. Oh man, you guys. I'm glad that we got to know a lot more about the SUR employees this episode. And, it seems like we're going to get to know some more people as the episodes go on. I'm here for it. I'm trying to be open. I'm trying to be positive and, let me know what you guys think. But I feel like it's worth covering for the rest of the season. All right, you guys. That is the end of the episode. I hope that you enjoyed it. Follow me on TikTok, Threads, and Instagram at The Bravo Investigator. Subscribe to my YouTube channel, youtube.com/@TheBravoInvestigator. Subscribe to the Patreon at patreon.com/The Bravo Investigator Podcast. And I love you, BBs. I will see you next time. Thank you for listening to the Bravo Investigator Podcast. For more content, head over to patreon.com/The Bravo Investigator Podcast. Follow me on Instagram, TikTok, and Threads at The Bravo Investigator. If you enjoyed the show, leave a 5-star review. Love you, BB. See you next time.